Okay, today's session is a pure workshop, so we just get down to business. And we like to say that a lot of stuff that we're going to say here today is not something that's usually a part of your curriculum, but it is something that we face every single day that we run this foundation, because there are people writing to us and saying we've lost money and get it back for us. And our answer is that once you lose the money in India, it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get your money back. In fact, I keep saying that, the system just has not evolved to create a grievance redress mechanism as yet. And if there was one that worked effectively, there would be no need for Moneylife Foundation at all. So this is about money, because as they say, it's all about the money, honey. But this is more about your life, because some of the lessons that you learn here, we hope that are going to stay with you for the rest of your life. So you've heard the saying, it's all about the money. And there's a good reason why people say that, because anything on earth that you want to do, including charity and philanthropy, you have to put your hand in your pocket. And if that's empty, there's nothing much that you can do, right? What happens is that we don't know how to handle it. Sometimes we may be smart enough to make it fast. So what happens when you deal with money is that over years and years of evolution of the human mind, one of the things that has not happened is that the mind has not yet learned how to grasp finance, numbers, and money. Okay? So when you see danger, you see a tiger in front of you, the body automatically reacts, adrenaline pumps in, and you just take off even before you know it. You can run faster and longer at the time when you see danger. But when you see financial danger, nothing happens, because you don't even see the danger most of the time. And that is part of the reason why you had several times a huge global financial crisis, which goes back hundreds of years. I mean, you look back, I'm sure in your books, when you hear about the tulip mania, you must be sneering and thinking, how could a bunch of grown-up, educated adults think that a flower would be worth, whatever, thousands and thousands of pounds, or, the Danish krona that they were paying for it, right? But it happened. So global crises have been happening over and over again because the mind doesn't know how to deal with risk, okay? And research shows that ordinary people are not mentally geared. The mind is not yet wired to understand financial risk and understand financial products. This is actually good news for most of us, because most people tend to beat themselves up for not understanding numbers. And a lot of women definitely do. You had even, I think, Chanda Kochar make a controversial statement, which turned controversial recently, saying there are less women in management because they don't understand numbers. Nothing to be embarrassed about. Many people in this room pretending to understand numbers also probably don't understand them as much as they ought to, okay? And I'm telling you, it includes businessmen, and we're going to come to that shortly. So this lack of core understanding, as I said, leads to a crisis. There's several things happen when we deal with money. Another thing that happens is we tend to transfer our experiences of dealing with consumer products onto financial products. So what happens, you buy a mobile phone, as long as you have the instruction manual and understand it, you start using it. You buy a toaster, you just plug it in and it works, right? It does not happen with financial products, because everybody looks good, everyone has a big brand name, you can have an HSBC. If you have a financial product, whether you buy a Samsung or an Apple makes a difference. Whether you're driving a Nano or you're driving a Lamborghini makes a difference, because there are additional features. When it comes to the financial world, you are just as likely to be cheated by putting your money in an HSBC as you would with a cooperative bank. The only difference would be when you go in there, the ambiance is different. It's air conditioned, they'll probably offer you a cappuccino, but otherwise you're capable of losing. I'm not saying you always lose it, you're capable of losing your money just as easily and just as fast. Big brand names nowhere in the world have made a difference. You know that in 2008, Citibank had come to the brink, right? Some of the biggest names in the business have gone under at that time. So big financial brands don't translate into better returns. Second thing that happens, you have big money in your pocket, you can actually test drive that fancy car, right? Can you test drive a mutual fund? What do you do about insurance? It takes at least a year before you know whether you really made the right decision or the wrong decision. Yes, you can reduce risks, but the results are known 1 year later. There is no way that you can get in and drive away or say, I made my investment. And believe me, after running this foundation for 6 years, this is where we find most people have made a mistake. People in their 50s and 60s have put in pension money and they say, I bought the insurance. That's not the key decision. Did you get your money back is the key decision. I bought a mutual fund, so big deal. Did it give you the returns that you expected? That is what you're looking at, and that comes 1 year later. A third thing that happens when it comes to financial products, actually it comes to any product, okay? But you buy a dress in a fancy mall, you don't like it, it doesn't fit, you're going back there to return it. You buy a toaster, it doesn't work the next morning, you're out there complaining. In a financial product, there is no question of going back for at least a year because you don't even know whether it works or not. And there, the sales pitch that everybody gives you is what really affects you, and everybody is constantly hammering something at you. So companies are telling you that they are the best because they have a product to sell. They are coming to you at a time when they really are selling a product, they have a FD to market, or they're coming out with an IPO, at which time they've dressed themselves up to look their best with fancy projections. Luckily, some of the projections have been stopped, but you know how it works. Behind the scenes, there are full-page wraparound ads to sort of highlight the brands of the company. The media participates in this very actively because the media gets large advertising every time there's a big financial event, and as long as that advertising is flowing in, very few of them are going to carry negative stories. In fact, almost nobody today will carry a negative story at the cost of advertising, except maybe a few idiots like us. Finally, there are all the intermediaries whose job and whose commissions depend on the hard sell. So it's not enough that you know the numbers. You have to know the numbers and have the skepticism to look through all this sales pitch. And some of you, when you go to the corporate world, are going to be part of that sales pitch. You're going to be doing it as a part of your work. But as a part of your personal life, you should be able to make a distinction between what you're selling as part of your work and what you're buying as a part of your life and your savings. Right? So the next is celebrities. And believe me, they have a huge impact. Sachin Tendulkar is God on the cricket field, but he also sells life insurance. I mean, we keep saying that it's okay as long as he's selling pure drinking water, not much damage done. But when he sells child insurance, we hear that there's an actual village somewhere off Maharashtra, that the entire village was convinced by an intermediary that, look, Sachin Tendulkar is saying this is a good insurance, you should buy it. And a whole bunch of illiterate people bought it for their children, and it is one of the worst products in the market because, you know, there is a lot of money that comes to the child if the parent dies, but if they're alive, the returns are very, very low, and the first 2-3 years, almost 100% of the money goes into costs and charges. This is something that we discovered and wrote in Moneylife when we crunched the numbers. Then, of course, there is Amitabh Bachchan. I'm a huge fan, okay? But 2 minutes to buy an insurance? I mean, when you're actually buying insurance, we know that someone from Goldman Sachs called an agent and said, I will spend an hour and decide what to buy. After 3 hours, he told the guy, leave the papers. I need to read a little more. But here at the airport, he's saying, 2 minutes, and you're buying insurance like it's Maggi noodles? Doesn't work like this. But the sales pitch works. It's made to seem as easy. And of course, the best actor of the lot, I think, is Irfan, right? Kam insurance lene ki bimari with that small chhatri. So, aap jada insurance lete ho, and then what happens? You don't get the money when you actually want it and you file for your insurance claim. In fact, we did the numbers on this one at Moneylife. We have a brilliant person, analyst, doing our insurance numbers, and we found that the maximum rejections were from the company that he was hawking. So look at what your mind has to deal with. It doesn't have to deal only with numbers. It has to deal with all these external factors that are constantly being bombarded at you, and it really needs a rock solid mind to say, I'm going to cut out all that noise and I know what I want. And Devashish will tell you in his session that what you want may be a lot, what you need is very little. In fact, he says, I think 90% or more of the products are something that you don't personally need in your life. Then we come back to, whether you have to be smart or dumb to invest in the market, right? I mean, this is something that's going to make most average people in this room, including me, happy, which is that smart people are easier to cheat. So if you think you're so damn smart, doesn't mean you won't lose money. In fact, global research and statistics show that you're more likely to lose money. And we have a whole bunch of, I keep calling it my doctor collection. We keep saying that unless you have this mid-90s percentile, you don't get into medicine, right? So the most clever of the lot go and do medicine. And you would be shocked at the manner in which they lose money. But I'm not going to cite those 100 examples. In fact, read the papers. You'll see something every other day about doctors being cheated. But I'll come up with one example which is relevant here. Okay, so there is this doctor who stays at Dadar. And she takes 25 lakhs, goes with 3 people to Lonavala, because they tell her that if they apply a chemical to currency note, they can quadruple it. Okay? I mean, yeah, you're laughing, but if I hadn't shown you this article which is published in Mumbai Mirror, she filed a complaint, she got those guys arrested, you would think I'm standing and making it up. But she actually took this money and went there. And I think I want you, since it's so extraordinary, I want you to do a little bit of thinking about it, which is that, obviously she lived to tell the tale. I don't know if all of you can read here, but let me just summarize what happened. She went there and those guys told her, leave the room, they're applying the chemical. They said they've spent a couple of lakhs to bring the chemical from Nepal. They say, I didn't know Nepal was so good at making these wonderful chemicals. And then they said it caught fire, and they said, bad luck, your currency is all gone, it's got burnt. And she said, I'm going to file a complaint. They said, go and file it, this is your black money anyway. And, let's see if you do it. Now, the surprise is that she did, and the police actually went and chased those guys and arrested them. So my next question to you is, was this doctor right in going to the cops, or do you think there was anything wrong with this case? Anyone with some answers?
At fault at the first place.
Okay.
Have gone to those people for such a fraudulent activity.
Ma'am, counterfeiting is a crime, so she must be arrested first.
Who is that? Fantastic. I think you should give him a big hand. This is the first time somebody's answered this question correctly. Absolutely. Counterfeiting is a fraud which is punishable by imprisonment of up to 10 years. You had something?
Is equal to terrorism.
Correct. So it's a 10-year imprisonment. So when she went to the cops, they should have actually arrested her first. But then you know how the system works in India. She must have promised to share 50% of that black money with them or something. Then the cops get very busy without bothering about the IPC. But they went and arrested those guys. Now, start with her basic premise, an educated woman who actually thought that you apply, a chemical and currency quadruples. Can somebody tell me what are the features, how many features are there that you look at in a currency note which can never be duplicated by applying a chemical? Any answers? You seem to be well up on currency. Tell me.
Ma'am, 8.
Sorry, 8?
8.
Okay. Any? Name some.
Ma'am, the watermark,
Okay.
the strips, then
The strip.
The reflection of Mahatma Gandhi, and 500 rupees printed on the, I can't recall all of them, but I think it's 8, around
Okay.
8.
So I think all of us can do with being a little educated on this, so I'm going to run this small video.
The currency paper is very thin and makes a crisp crackling sound. Hold the note against the light to see the watermark of Mahatma Gandhi. Feel the printing on the note, it is raised. A seemingly broken thread can be seen. Tilt the note to see the color change from green to blue. On the green band, you can locate the number 500.
Okay. So all 8 of them, right? Fantastic. Again, a correct answer. And I must tell you another feature about Indian currency. Each of them carries a story, which apparently is very rare in the world, sent to me by my colleague Jocelyn out there. And I thought I should include it in this presentation. And since we are talking money and life revolves around money, one more little point, which is currency notes which do not have a certain feature have been discontinued. Which one? And don't fall for the 1 rupee there. Anyone has a correct answer? No? Simple for the last 6 months. Come on, you all answered all the others. Not this one? No. Yeah, who's this one who said yeah? You? No, whichever the year, after 2005, the year is printed on the currency, and RBI is withdrawing all currency which does not have a year printed. So they've been taking it back, right? So that's one of the features. Now, why did I put the 1 rupee over here? Because a 1 rupee note these days virtually not available. What is the difference between a 1 rupee currency and any other currency that you use? Come on, one person.
Ma'am,
the
1 rupee note is actually signed by the finance secretary and not the RBI governor.
Right. So you have a note which was printed 20 years ago when Montek Singh Ahluwalia as the finance secretary wanted his name on currency. And for 20 years they had the good sense not to print it because the cost of printing currency is higher than the value of the currency. But we recently had another secretary who said, I have to have the honor of having my signature over there. Doesn't matter if it costs more and the country loses. So it costs 1.14 for each currency note that's printed. And there is a second currency note. And 2-3 of you who have a correct answer, you certainly. I'm going to give you a currency note at the end of this. It's in my bag. Because I don't know if you've seen, but on eBay, these notes are so rare. They printed a small bunch of them. I read in the Times of India last month that they are being sold at $1,000. Okay, so in the middle section. So do you want to come and collect your 1 rupee? And one more person over here who had the 2005, and one more right answer over there. Which was it? Come on, be honest and tell me who was the third one who gave a correct answer?
I'm a big fan.
A whole 1 rupee, yeah?
Actually following you on Twitter.
Oh, you are. Thanks so much. So keep it safely. It's not going to get printed again, okay? Here's one for you. Thanks. There was one more correct answer. One of you. Come on. Was it you there with the specs?
Move on.
Anyway, come and take it. Okay, so here I'm going to carry on until he reaches the stage. The bottom line over here is that if it seems too good to be true, it usually is, okay? If this is your guiding principle when money is concerned, because you have to realize that not all people are nice like me. They're not distributing currency to you, okay? So come on up. So most people are not going to give you any money. Which means that when someone is offering you easy money, it is usually too good to be true. It doesn't get converted into 1,000 rupees like those notes. And the minute you apply this simple formula to every single money-making offer that you get, I think you'll have some answers. I'm going to quickly run through what happens and how easily people are parted with their money. These are all the scams that you're going to encounter every single day of your life. And if you start reading the papers carefully from tomorrow, every single copy of the Times of India will describe at least one of these, which means that none of them are in the past, nobody has learned any lessons, and every day there is a new one. So everyone wants easy money, so they're falling for something or the other. So don't spend too much time in the Bloomberg lab. You know, nifty traders make money when the market is going up. When it goes down, you're completely bankrupt. Forex derivatives, oil futures. I've just been talking to your professors and telling them women who didn't have the foggiest notion about what the market is all about were trading in oil futures, okay? Money that they got from a flat. The market collapsed. You know what's happened to oil today? I don't know if you all remember how expensive it was around 2008. You're sure to be bankrupt, okay? And people make money. I keep saying, instead of telling people how not to lose money, if we had just put up a board outside our office which offered just 18% returns, we wouldn't have had to go around giving any lectures. We would be rolling in it, which is what these guys did. Stock Guru, 1,000 crores. They changed, you know, their names. They went from, we call them the Bunty and the Bubbly of the markets, because they kept going around. People were running to them with their checks because they were offering fantastic returns. And everyone thinks it's so easy that, you know, someone has a magic formula. You're making money in the market all the time. So from, you know, whether it was 92 or it was before, the story has been repeated over and over again. And then what happens when the money is gone? They're all lining up outside the police station, where sometimes it works like it did with that doctor. But look at the people who should have won. This is a company called City Limousine, okay? This is a man who made the movie Chak De. And highly patriotic. Anywhere he went, he would have Dilip Kumar and Shah Rukh Khan with him. And he was offering a return of 120%. He paid that for 3 years and collected over 6,500 crore. Part of it went to the movie. Everything else went into his pocket. He was a big rage. Not once did he have to advertise. All he had to say is, I'm giving this return and offering checks to people. And what happens when the mind plays games is that you see a check and you say, oh, this guy is honest, because he has paid me. And in all the Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes, the basic part of the cheat is that you actually get a check. Because the early guys who are getting that money, they are going around saying, hey, look, I mean, who says this guy is a cheat? I've got the money, I've got this damn 120% return. And this man was paying this return for 3 years before he went bankrupt. And there are several others which are now international chains which have been doing this for 10 and 15 years. People drop out in the middle, but the money keeps rotating around the world. And who are the people who should have warned you? The policemen, the RBI officers. This is why I've put this number up, because 6,000 policemen were involved. There were 200 income tax officers, 15 RBI officials, 300 people from Mantralaya. That means everybody who should have been warning the world that don't fall for this was actually an investor. Okay? And one of the things that we have discovered is that most of these people believe that others will get cheated, not me. Because I'm a cop, right? I'm in the income tax, I'll fix the guy. And the fact is that a lot of times when the guy is caught, in the initial shakedown that happens where his flats and his cars are confiscated, they indeed get their money back. Okay? It is people like you and me who will land up sitting outside the police station and waiting for years together. Our money does not come back. When Stock Guru was caught, we broke that story, I think, a year before the guy was arrested, and we said it's a 1,000 crore scam. The day he's arrested, the newspapers put out a report that it's worth 500 crore. And we tell ourselves, we know where that other 500 crore will go. It will not get accounted. It will get distributed among the idiots who should have actually been warning people not to invest there, but they shake it down and they get their money out first. This is a little more about the company. And there are innumerable companies like this. Do you remember Sahara? Every single cricketer was wearing the logo on their t-shirt. And the reason I put this up is their self-confession. They had a residuary non-banking finance company in which they say we raised 73,000 crore. Now look at the interesting thing. If you keep your eyes open, you notice a lot of things. The man, Subrata Roy, could have been seen with every film star and politician that matters. But when it came to real finance, it says company secretary, no logo anywhere on that ad. It's talking about returning money in 3 years ahead of time. And that ahead of time was 2015. We are in the last days of 2015. You know where the man has spent his last 1 year, right? And the minute you're throwing money, which is easy money because you're collecting it and you're recirculating it. So when it's that kind of a Ponzi, you have endless amounts. You can make Sachin Tendulkar do an ad like that for some rubbishy retail project of his, and it convinces all of us, because you go from village to village, there were actually people putting in money saying, no questions asked, because how is everybody his friend? And here even the media was. The more tragic one is this Sharda scam. And again, Sharda, 23 suicides, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The police tell us, there is a DIG from Andhra Pradesh who's been going after these in a big way. He says that every state capital has about 10,000 of these money circulation schemes of different sizes. So it can be a guy who collects less than 1 crore, but he'll tell you get a gold bangle and you double it, or you put in 25 bucks, which is aimed at domestic helpers, or you go higher and higher like a QNet or a Sharda again was the poorest of people. And what did they fall for? The fact that this man was constantly seen with film stars and politicians. It is the image building that works. And look at the numbers. Pearls is something where the All India Bank Employees Association is now taking out morchas. 49,100 crore. I mean, just think of how many union budgets are smaller than this. I think the government's annual budget for education also doesn't match this, but people, the poorest people and rich ones, educated ones, bank employees have lost money, and that's why the largest union is taking up this cause. It's not illiterate people, it's educated people who put money there. They're not asking questions. The only trick is to say, I will give you high returns. And this was like a mutual fund with land as a collateral, and you could buy into portions of land. They say some land was bought, but nowhere near 49,000 crore. Day before yesterday, I think SEBI has attached some assets. These people also use your money to game the judicial system. So he has used every legal forum possible to keep pocketing more and more money. So at 20,000 crore, it was the lead story in Economic Times, I think 5-6 years ago. And in spite of that, where they called it a scam, it was just 20,000 crore. It has now grown to 49,100. QNet, similar story. The wife of a former finance minister is a legal advisor to them, and they keep raising funds. PAN card club. I'm not going to go into details because I'm sure if I ask you, each of you will name 10 of them. If you haven't thought through what it means, I think now's the time to start thinking. But we come back to the same thing. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. Any scheme that says that gives you 3% more than a bank FD, you need to watch out. Instead of saying, terrific, great returns, here's my check, you need to say, why is someone who's running a business willing to pay you 3% more? He's not in love with you. A businessman works at paying the least possible money that he can as interest. Okay, he's not going to pay 3% more because he says, I like you, you have to worry about it. Anyone who offers binary schemes which talk about 100% returns, or all the Amways and others of the world, every scheme that says part of high returns is that you have to introduce new people. This is what Pearls did. So we have a video on our website which has a really poor guy saying, I put 25 lakhs into it. And we said, this guy doesn't look like he has 25 lakhs. So we asked him, we told someone to ask him a question, where did it come from? And he says, all my relatives, all my family members, brothers and others. So one of the things that these schemes do is that you're showing a check saying, mujhe return mil gaya. So the first people that you go and con, not because you want to, but because you've fallen for it, is your best friends, your family, your relatives, because those are the ones you're going to convince first, right? And when the schemes fail, if I'm getting a 15% or 18% return on something, my money is in a bank FD earning 8% taxable. What am I going to do? The minute I'm convinced, I'm going to withdraw whatever else I have, maybe sell gold and put money into a scheme like this. Somebody came to my office the other day saying one scheme which is particularly popular in the Muslim community, a gold scheme. The lady who's selling it wears a burqa, but she's got photographs with 2 prime ministers. Okay, and 2 women came to him saying they want to mortgage their home because there is a guaranteed return here. And she's already collected over 2,000 crores. So we can just go on, but pyramids that are built up where they say get one more person or get 3 or 5 or 9, all the formulas, they're made to seem as though there's a lot of high mathematics that has gone into it. It's all rubbish. And this is a chart from the FBI website. It happens, like I said, these scams happen all over the world. We haven't invented them. The SEC and the FBI websites have them on the front page. They've even banned the whole binary business where, you get 2 more people to get your returns. In India, it is not yet banned. We have a standing committee which has given a report recently. And hopefully we'll have tighter regulation. We have a couple of acts. We have a Chit Fund Act. Each one of these comes out with a scheme that looks like a regulated scheme. So optionally convertible debentures, preference shares, some preference convertible debentures, all kinds of nomenclatures which look like they've gone through a big fat prospectus and a clearance by a Securities and Exchange Board of India, but it's not. And today in India, this is the biggest loot that is going on, and every one of them is talking about 500 crore and above as numbers, not smaller than that. The 2 biggest, of course, is 49,000 crore of pearls and Sahara, which is 73,000 crore. Then you have the Nigerian scam, right? The African dictator's wife who wants to send out her ill-gotten stash through your bank account in India. And even there are variations of it. So you'll have emails coming from, the Satyam promoter Raju's wife. You will have a lot of emails coming to you from the RBI governor. Okay, and the RBI has it on its website to warn that we have no escrow accounts, we are not keeping any money from any country, your forefathers don't, they don't have any money coming to them from the British government, which we are doling out. These are all the stories that are sent out in blank emails that come into your mailbox. Why do I say blank? They're all very well written, constructed with an RBI logo on top, and the logo and the letter looks so genuine that the RBI spends a lot of time and money putting out ads to say it doesn't happen. In fact, if you get an email from the governor, his signature includes this, that we don't keep escrow accounts, don't fall for anyone who says there's money coming to you from the RBI, because it's that widespread, okay? You guys don't get these mails? Canadian lotteries, Australian something, some oil futures. And there are people falling for it every day. Today's Times of India had a story about some woman who sent some few lakhs of rupees to a guy who says he's going to marry her and, met him on Facebook. Meeting people on Facebook and getting conned, it's lakhs of rupees, is in the papers every other day. It's a variation of, I bunch them all as the Nigerian scam. It's a variation of this. And the Nigerians are not even in Nigeria anymore. India is such a big market that I think they're somewhere here in the suburbs, and there is an area which is called Nigeria Wadi, because there's so many of them who are skillfully using the internet to con people, and we are really a big market. These are called advance fee scams, because the basics of the scam is to look at whether, like a fish being, caught on a rod, whether you get lured for small amounts. So they tell you you're going to get $10 million, and all you need to pay is the small processing fee. If you're dumb enough to pay that fee, we got a email today just before we came here. Guy says he's been promised 45 lakhs, and all he has to pay, very official sounding letter, all he has to pay is 78,564 rupees as a clearance money, so that within 48 hours his money is some 250 million is going to be transferred to his bank account. And this guy is really smart, because he writes to us and says, I'm a poor man, but I want that 48 lakhs, so you help me to get it. I mean, this is a new one even for us, where we said, okay, so we pay that advance fee. Is he going to at least split the 250 million with us? But it is happening every single day. People are falling for it. Look at, I mean, who are the kind of people falling for it? Anyone recognize this guy? So we say any publicity is good publicity. This man has lost 7 lakhs to a similar online fraudster. What does he say? I'm a trusting guy, okay? I think you should stop being so trusting. The flip side of this little dumbness is this woman. There's another one who went to jail for that murder where a body was slashed up with back running scams. So this woman has been promising a 200 to 400% return and has also collected crores of rupees until I think her luck ran out or she turned too flashy. So what you students need to worry about, of course, is the job scams. Okay, where all the biggest companies apparently, instead of coming to campus for recruitment, are saying pay 10,000 rupees, we'll send you a plane ticket and we'll call you somewhere. And again, lots of people have fallen for this. Maybe not so many in the cities like Mumbai, but in smaller places, they think this is their opportunity to get a job with Microsoft or a Kotak. All these companies named here have issued ads to say this is not how we conduct interviews. Okay. Then, of course, you have the phishing and wishing that happens. Again, youngsters, I hope, don't fall for it, but senior citizens are falling for it by the dozen because they're not very savvy with using email, and the emails are so authentic looking that it really looks like it's come from the bank. So you know that phishing is when you are asked for your identity on email. Wishing is when they call you up or they ask you on the mobile, and then there are people who are calling you up to say they're checking your transaction and asking for the PIN. And the number of people who fall for it are giving a PIN to someone who says he's checking. So no bank is ever going to do any of this online, and I keep telling people, just keep your bank call center number. Yes, it's boring to listen through the dial 1 for this and dial 2 for that, but if it's your money, either bang the phone down or make the effort to call if you think your account is going to be closed because you haven't verified something. Again, as students, this is something that you need to really worry about, because these are videos that are being passed online with a huge amount of destructive malware, and this particular one apparently affected the systems of several large corporations around the world. And the minute you get something on a WhatsApp or mail, please don't start sending it forward until you have verified it, because it's a new thing that's jipping people. Your entire data, and especially today if you have mobile wallets and you have all kinds of identification or online banking instructions on your mail, it's capable of pulling out a lot of stuff from your mobile phone. So we talked about how you can get scammed. We all put our money finally in a bank. So where do you put your money? Can you trust all banks? Is it safe? So I keep saying, yes, in India, 45% of our banking system is still public sector owned. So relatively safe because Sarkar takes care of you, right? So even if the bank's net worth is eroded, Government of India is backing it. So we have nothing to worry about. Large private banks, long time ago when we had the Ketan Parikh scam, the government said we will not allow banks to collapse. So Global Trust Bank was also bailed out through a merger. So we keep saying, don't run every time you get an SMS saying money is drying out in X bank's ATM or Y bank's ATM. Nothing's going to happen if it is really large. But we keep saying stay away from cooperative banks. By and large, there are 4 or 5 exceptions which are big. All the others failing with regularity. They don't get shut down until 2 years after. They have dual regulation by the RBI and the Registrar of Cooperatives, which means neither of them regulate the banks properly. And there's enormous political pressure on the regulators not to act. So even when their net worth is fully eroded, usually nothing happens for a couple of years except that your money doesn't come back to you. So suddenly you find that your fixed deposits in your savings accounts, you're not allowed any withdrawals. And I keep saying that 1 lakh is only what you get per account, okay, through the deposit insurance. And this 1 lakh comes to you after the bank is liquidated, which means it could be 2-3 years down the line. If I were a student needing easy money, I would not put my money in a cooperative bank except if there's one in the campus and the amount is below 1 lakh, okay? I'm not saying all are bad, so I'm not going to not trust, but my big core savings, which is running into a few lakhs of rupees where I'm dependent on that savings, I would put it only in a large bank. Foreign banks, by and large, it's okay, but they are globally regulated, and I think after 2008, when they allowed Lehman Brothers to collapse, globally, nations have decided that allowing big banks to fail causes more damage to, psychological and financial to the system. So there is a culture of bailing them out. America has bailed out everybody. So even with foreign banks, if they're large, you're safe. If they're small, and this is life, it's survival of the fittest. If you're small, you're allowed to die and nobody sheds any tears. I don't know if you have any questions. I'm coming to one part now where I think a lot of you students, how many here have education loans? Okay, not too many in this class, but education loans is really, I think in most of your cases, your first borrowing. And it's not even really your borrowing, you're riding on the net worth of your parents, right? So your father or somebody there is a co-signatory. You know that it's available for specific courses, and a management course is one of them. You get this money even if you're studying abroad. You have a moratorium on repayment of 6 to 12 months, depending on which bank you opt for, after you complete your studies. For a lot of people, an education loan today is absolutely worth taking because costs of education have gone up, and interest rates 11.5 to 13.5 with the kind of moratorium you get during your education is again a good deal because it allows you the flexibility. You don't have to dip into your parents' savings and pocketbook in order to get it. And the market is growing, lots of youngsters are availing of it, and it's growing at 35%. Now the thing that I need to tell you and why I've included education loans is this, that remember, a co-signatory is your parent. The default rate in education loans is extremely high. One of the problems with an education loan is that you are under pressure to get a job as soon as you finish working because you need to start repaying. That means in the first few years of your working life, you are repaying the loan that you took while studying. A lot of people don't think through what they're going to do. There are times when they can afford to pay for their first year of study, but they go ahead and take the loan, and then they decide that I'm going for higher education, and they default on the first loan before going back. If you default on a loan, you are going and screwing up your credit history right at the beginning of your lives. Because remember, after you start, working is when really life begins as an independent adult. And let's not have a default at that time. If you go abroad, there is no chance you're going to get a credit card, or you're going to pay very, very high interest on the credit card. In fact, Indian markets are relatively safer. It's called what you do in terms of borrowing, whether it's a credit card or it's a loan, is called your credit history. Every single thing that you do, once your credit history is recorded, there are 4 organizations that are tracking you. They're tracking your repayments. They're tracking whether they are made in time. So even if you, bounce a few checks or you delay repayments, it goes into your credit history. The credit history is reduced to one number, which is a 3-digit number called the credit score. Now, in the rest of the world, if your credit score is low, it is so bad in America that people with a low credit score find it very difficult to even get women to marry them, and vice versa, okay? Because you can't survive without a credit card. You can't get your, automobile. You can't get anything. You can't hire things. So it is all important, and we are headed that way. There are so many dimensions to it. We are at a starting point here. If you have a bad credit history and you doing joint accounts with your spouse later on or your girlfriend, it affects your credit history together. Like I said, we are still at a primitive stage, so all those dimensions that happen abroad don't affect you. But what happens here, in a sense, is worse. You're declared a defaulter, you can't get another loan. Which means, think about it, you're just starting your career, you defaulted on an education loan, and pretty soon your job says, I'm going to send you abroad, but you can't go abroad without a credit card. These days it's mandatory. And you can't get a credit card. Why? Because you're a defaulter. There's a lot of advocacy required here because it remains in your books for 7 years. Okay, 7 years is really a long time in your life, especially when you're 20. So I'm urging you, those of you who have education loans and those of you who are planning to take them, think it through very, very carefully. Treat it as very important. You have to repay it. And finally, one little thing for all of you who live in a social media world today, youngsters, these things didn't affect us when we were young, so we were relatively freer. But at the drop of a hat, all of you are sharing things on Facebook, right? Today, with Aadhaar and with social media, tracking everything that you do has become so easy. We, the media, do it also. The minute there is somebody has been murdered, everyone goes out to look at social media to dig out some details about the person. HR departments are doing the same thing. So you want a job, you've gone on a drunken spree, you've done something stupid, for God's sake, keep it private. Don't go and put it out in the public domain, because all of it can come back to haunt you. Okay? Lending institutions are looking at social media. HR departments are definitely looking at social media, which means that before you come to an interview, there is a 2-pager in front of the interviewing panel, which probably even has photos of your funny faces on Facebook, right? So start thinking about these things, because no point in repenting at the time when you're going for campus interviews. Recovery agencies are tracking you. In fact, large companies in 2008 had people defaulting on credit cards, many of them. In fact, it used to be a fashion in IIT that you take a credit card, you even buy your plane ticket on it, dump the credit card in India, because you say, I've gone abroad, who can find me? Do you know that they're finding you? The next time you want to come to India, you've got a super job now, you ask to come 10 years later to head the India office, you can't come back because you're being tracked until you pay back your old loans with interest, okay, which is compounding. So there is no escape. And if you think it's going to be easy to get out, lenders, landlords, again, landlords is a new thing. You want to hire a place, they're also checking social media, and overseas, they're allowed to draw your credit history. So credit history companies allow landlords. In India, we are lucky, it's still not happening. So these are things that, affect your generation, which didn't affect us that much because none of it was available. You couldn't get a loan or a credit card for love or money in our times. But this is a new reality, and you need to prepare for it. So I end with 5 mantras. Know your mind. It's going to play the maximum tricks with you. See through every sales pitch. Avoid credit and investment traps. Maintain financial hygiene. Like I said, repayments. And finally, when it comes to the life part of Moneylife, be careful with those social media disclosures. With this, I'm handing it over to Devashish, and we will do any questions that you have at the end of both our sessions. Thank you.